The DNA test was routine until it revealed she wasn't human. Dr. Emma Rodriguez had analyzed thousands of DNA samples in her 15 years at Genesis Medical Center, but nothing had prepared her for what appeared on her screen that Tuesday morning. The routine blood work from patient Nora Winters showed something that shouldn't exist according to everything science understood about human genetics. Emma rubbed her tired eyes and ran the test again. The results remained unchanged. Nora's DNA contained sequences that didn't match any known human genome. More disturbing, these sequences were active, producing proteins that had no business existing in a human body. "This can't be right," Emma muttered, her coffee growing cold as she stared at the holographic display. The genetic markers were beautiful in their complexity, forming patterns that seemed almost artistic. They reminded her of the crystalline structures she'd studied in graduate school, but those belonged to minerals, not living tissue. Nora Winters sat in the waiting room 3 floors below, completely unaware that her routine health screening had just shattered the foundations of human biology. She was a kindergarten teacher, 28 years old, with striking violet eyes and an unusual warmth that made everyone around her feel instantly comfortable. Children were drawn to her like flowers to sunlight, and parents often commented on how their kids seemed happier after spending time in her class. Emma picked up her phone to call Dr. James Mitchell, her research partner and the only person she trusted with something this extraordinary. James had been her closest friend since medical school, and lately she'd begun to wonder if their relationship might become something more. "James, I need you to come to Lab 7 immediately," Emma said when he answered. "And bring the quantum sequencer." "The quantum sequencer?" "Emma, that equipment is reserved for classified government projects. What exactly are you working on? Just trust me, please." 20 minutes later, James arrived with his signature crooked smile and questioning blue eyes. His dark hair was messy from sleep, suggesting he'd rushed over without his usual morning routine. Emma had always found his dedication endearing, especially when it meant dropping everything to help her. "Show me," he said simply. Emma pulled up Nora's genetic profile on the main display. James's expression shifted from curiosity to disbelief to something approaching awe. "Emma, these sequences, they're not random. They're organized like code, like instructions for something we don't understand." "That's not even the strangest part," Emma replied, highlighting another section. "These markers are responding to electromagnetic fields. Every time a phone rings in the building, or someone uses the microwave in the break room, they fluctuate." James moved closer to study the data, and Emma caught the familiar scent of his cologne, mixed with the coffee he'd been drinking. They'd worked together so long that these small details had become comforting constants in her life. "We need to meet with her," James said finally. "This patient, Nora Winters. She needs to know." "Know what? That she's not human? That would destroy her life. Or it might save it. Look at these cellular repair mechanisms." James pointed to another cluster of data. "Her body is healing itself at an accelerated rate. She's probably never been seriously ill, never had a major injury that didn't heal perfectly." Emma realized he was right. Nora's medical history showed remarkable health, almost supernatural recovery times from minor injuries, and an immune system that seemed to function at impossible efficiency levels. "There's something else," Emma said quietly. "I ran a compatibility test against the hospital's donor database. Her genetic markers, they're responding to yours, James, and mine, like they're designed to recognize something in us." The implications hung in the air between them. If Nora wasn't entirely human, and if her genetics were somehow compatible with theirs, it suggested something far more complex than a simple genetic anomaly. "We need to contact her today," James said, "but carefully. Whatever she is, wherever she came from, her life is about to change forever." Emma nodded, knowing that their lives were about to change as well. The routine DNA test had revealed more than just Nora's impossible genetics. It had opened a door to questions about human evolution, alien contact, and the possibility that love might transcend the boundaries of species itself. Nora Winters arrived at Genesis Medical Center the next morning, her violet eyes filled with concern. Emma had called her the previous evening, explaining only that there were some unusual results that required discussion. As a kindergarten teacher, Nora was used to handling unexpected situations, but the serious tone in Dr. Rodriguez's voice had kept her awake most of the night. "Please, sit down," Emma said as Nora entered the consultation room. James stood by the window, his expression carefully neutral. "I want you to know that what we're about to discuss might be difficult to accept." Nora folded her hands in her lap, a gesture Emma noticed was unconsciously graceful. Everything about this woman seemed to flow naturally, from the way she moved to the way she spoke. Even her presence in the room seemed to calm Emma's nervous energy. "Is it cancer?" Nora asked directly. "My grandmother died of leukemia when I was 12. I've always worried it might be genetic." "No, it's not cancer," James said, moving to sit across from her. "Nora, have you ever felt different from other people? Not just emotionally, but physically different?" Nora's laugh was musical, carrying notes that seemed to resonate in the room. "Everyone feels different sometimes, don't they? But if you're asking if I've noticed anything unusual, ... She paused, considering. "I heal quickly, always have. And I seem to sense things about people, their emotions, their intentions. My students, parents say I have an intuitive understanding of their children." Emma and James exchanged glances. "What about your family history?" Emma asked. "Your parents, grandparents? Any unusual abilities or characteristics?" "I was adopted," Nora replied simply. "The agency told my parents I was found as an infant, abandoned at a hospital in Nevada. No information about my biological parents was ever discovered." James leaned forward. "Nora, what I'm about to show you will challenge everything you believe about yourself. But I want you to know that Dr. Rodriguez and I are here to help you understand and process this information." Emma activated the holographic display, showing Nora's genetic profile in three-dimensional detail. The crystalline patterns rotated slowly, beautiful and impossible. "These are your genes," Emma said softly. "The sequences highlighted in blue are found in all humans. The ones in gold, those don't exist in any known human genome." Nora stared at the display, her face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and something that looked like recognition. "What does this mean?" "We believe you're a hybrid," James said gently. "Part human, part something else. The golden sequences are incredibly advanced, far beyond current human evolution. They're responsible for your accelerated healing, your empathic abilities, and probably other capabilities you haven't discovered yet." Instead of panic or denial, Nora nodded slowly. "I've always known I was different. Even as a child, I could sense things others couldn't. Animals were drawn to me. Plants seemed to grow better in my presence. And I've never been seriously ill or injured." Emma found herself drawn to Nora's calmness. Most people would be hysterical by now, but Nora seemed to be processing the information with remarkable composure. "There's more," Emma continued. "Your genetic markers are responding to both Dr. Mitchell and myself. It's as if you're designed to recognize and bond with specific humans." Nora's violet eyes moved between Emma and James, and for a moment the air in the room seemed to shimmer with energy. "I felt it the moment I walked in yesterday," she admitted. "A connection to both of you. I thought it was just nervous attraction, but it felt deeper than that." James cleared his throat, his professional demeanor slipping slightly. "The genetic compatibility suggests that whoever your non-human parent was, they specifically chose humans with certain genetic markers for reproduction. This wasn't random, Nora. This was planned. Planned by whom? Nora asked, though her tone suggested she might already suspect the answer. Before either doctor could respond, the lights in the room flickered, and the genetic display began pulsing with increased intensity. Nora's golden genetic sequences were activating, responding to her emotional state as she processed the truth about her origins. Your genes are responding to stress and emotional stimulation, Emma observed, taking notes on her tablet. They're not just passive markers. They're active, adaptive, almost like they're designed to evolve in real time. Nora stood and moved to the window, her presence seeming to calm the fluctuating energy in the room. I need to know who I really am, she said quietly, and I need to understand why I'm connected to both of you. Emma felt her heart race as she realized the implications. This wasn't just about discovering a new species or unlocking scientific mysteries. This was about three people whose lives had become intertwined by forces beyond their understanding, and the love story that was beginning to unfold between them might hold the key to understanding Nora's true nature. Then we'll find out together, James said, his voice carrying a promise that extended far beyond professional obligation. 3 weeks after the revelation, Nora's life had transformed completely. She'd taken leave from her teaching position, officially for medical reasons, but privately to explore the extraordinary abilities that were awakening within her. Emma and James had become her constant companions, both as researchers documenting her transformation and as the anchors keeping her grounded in humanity. The laboratory at Genesis Medical Center had become their second home. Emma arrived each morning with coffee and fresh data from overnight monitoring equipment, while James brought theoretical frameworks and gentle encouragement. Together, they were mapping abilities that redefined the possibilities of biological evolution. Look at this, Emma said, pulling up the latest scan results. Your cellular regeneration rate has increased by 30% since we started documenting. It's like your body is learning to optimize itself. Nora sat in the center of the room, surrounded by monitoring equipment that tracked her vital signs, electromagnetic output, and genetic activity. Her violet eyes had grown more luminous over the past weeks, and her skin seemed to hold a subtle inner light. I can feel it happening, Nora said, her voice carrying those musical harmonics that had become more pronounced. It's like I'm becoming more myself, if that makes sense. More of what I was always meant to be. James looked up from his computer, where he'd been analyzing the electromagnetic patterns Nora generated during meditation. The energy signatures are becoming more complex. They're not random emissions anymore. They're structured, almost like a language. As if responding to his words, the air around Nora began to shimmer with visible energy patterns. The lights dimmed automatically, and the room filled with gentle, golden luminescence emanating from her skin. Nora, Emma said softly, approaching carefully. How do you feel right now? Connected, Nora replied, her eyes closing as she concentrated. I can sense both of your emotions, your thoughts almost. James, you're excited about the scientific implications, but you're also worried about me. And Emma ... She opened her eyes, looking directly at the doctor. You're conflicted about your feelings. Emma's breath caught. Over the past weeks, her professional interest in Nora had evolved into something deeper and more complex. She found herself thinking about the enigmatic woman at all hours, drawn not just to her mystery, but to her warmth, intelligence, and the way she made Emma feel more alive than she had in years. A genetic compatibility we discovered, James said, his scientific mind working through the implications. It's not just biological, it's emotional, psychological. Nora, I think your non-human genetics are designed to form deep bonds with specific humans. Multiple bonds, Nora added quietly. I can feel it, The connection to both of you isn't competing. It's complementary. Like I'm designed to love more than one person simultaneously. The admission hung in the air, challenging conventional notions of love and relationship. Emma felt her heart racing as she processed what Nora was suggesting. That's not possible in human psychology, Emma said, though her scientific training was already pointing to evidence that contradicted her statement. Humans form pair bonds. Monogamous relationships are the norm. But what if I'm not entirely human? Nora asked, standing and moving between Emma and James. What if my kind evolved differently? What if love, for my species, is something that encompasses multiple connections without diminishing any of them? James found himself drawn to Nora's side, his usual scientific detachment melting away. The genetic markers that respond to Emma. And me, different sequences. It's like you're designed to recognize different qualities in different people. Nora placed one hand on Emma's arm and another on James's shoulder. The moment she touched them, all three felt a surge of energy that connected their minds and emotions. Emma gasped as she suddenly felt James's thoughts, his protective love for both women, his fascination with the scientific mystery, and his growing romantic feelings for Nora. Simultaneously, she felt Nora's deep affection for both of them, her gratitude for their acceptance, and her confusion about her evolving identity. This is impossible, Emma whispered, but she didn't pull away from the connection. Maybe impossible for humans, Nora said, her voice now clearly carrying harmonics that resonated in their bones. But I'm beginning to understand that I'm something new, something that bridges the gap between human limitations and something greater. Through their connected minds, all three shared a vision of Nora as a child, alone and different, instinctively hiding her abilities to fit in with human society. They felt her loneliness, her longing for connection, and her joy at finally finding people who could accept and love her true nature. Whatever you are, James said, his voice rough with emotion, wherever you came from, you're not alone anymore. Emma nodded, surprising herself with the certainty of her feelings. We're in this together, all of us. As their connection deepened, the golden light around Nora intensified, and for the first time since her transformation began, she felt complete. The love growing between the three of them wasn't just changing their lives. It was unlocking the final pieces of her genetic puzzle. The breakthrough came on a Thursday evening when Emma was working late in the lab. She'd been analyzing Nora's genetic sequences for weeks, searching for patterns that might reveal her origins. As she compared the data to astronomical databases, looking for any correlation between the strange genetic markers and known stellar phenomena, her computer chimed with an unexpected match. James, Nora, you need to see this, Emma called, her voice tight with excitement and disbelief. Within minutes, both of them arrived at the lab. Nora had been staying in a nearby apartment, her teaching position now permanently on hold as her transformation continued. James had barely left the medical center, driven by a combination of scientific curiosity and protective instincts toward both women. I found it, Emma said, pulling up a split-screen display. Nora's genetic markers aren't random alien DNA. They're a map. The screen showed Nora's golden genetic sequences alongside a star chart of the Andromeda Galaxy. The patterns matched perfectly, with each genetic cluster corresponding to specific stellar coordinates. My DNA is a star map? Nora asked, moving closer to study the display. Her proximity caused the holographic projection to brighten and pulse in response to her bioelectric field. More than that, Emma continued, her fingers flying across the keyboard to bring up additional data. 3 months ago, the Kepler Space Observatory detected structured signals from these exact coordinates. The scientific community dismissed them as equipment malfunctions, but look at this. She overlaid the signal patterns with Nora's brainwave. activity from their recent monitoring sessions. The match was undeniable. "I've been broadcasting," Nora realized, her violet eyes widening. "My brain has been sending signals to space without my knowledge." James pulled up a chair, his analytical mind processing the implications. "Not just broadcasting. According to this data, you've been receiving signals too. Subconscious communications that might explain your accelerated development over the past month." As if summoned by their discovery, the golden light around Nora intensified, and her eyes began to glow with inner radiance. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that made the air itself vibrate with energy. "They're coming," she said, though her normal consciousness seemed surprised by the words. "My people. They've been waiting for me to mature, to find compatible humans who could help bridge our species." Emma felt a chill of fear mixed with exhilaration. "How long do we have?" "Soon," Nora replied, her enhanced awareness providing information her human mind couldn't fully process. "But they're not coming as invaders. They're coming as ... family. I'm not the first hybrid, just the first to successfully integrate with human society." Through their growing psychic connection, Emma and James felt Nora's memories awakening. Not her human childhood memories, but genetic memories passed down through her alien heritage. They saw glimpses of a dying world, a species that had watched humanity from afar for millennia, waiting for the right moment to make contact. "Your people were refugees," James said, understanding flooding through their shared consciousness. "They've been hiding among us, interbreeding carefully, creating bridges between our species." "The adoption agency," Emma added, pieces clicking into place. "There must be others. Children placed strategically, raised as humans, but carrying the genetic keys to first contact." Nora nodded, her awareness expanding beyond the laboratory to sense others like herself scattered across the globe. 12 of us in this generation, each placed with families in different countries, different cultures. We're designed to prove that coexistence is possible. The laboratory's communication system suddenly activated without human input. The screens filled with complex mathematical equations that resolved into a simple message in multiple Earth languages. "We come in peace. We come for our children. We come to unite our peoples." Emma's hands trembled as she recorded everything. "This will change human history. First contact, proof of alien life, evidence that we're not alone in the universe." "More than that," Nora said, reaching for both Emma and James. "It's proof that love transcends species, that connection and understanding can overcome any barrier." As their hands joined, the three felt their bond deepening, strengthened by the cosmic significance of their relationship. They weren't just 3 people who had found love together. They were pioneers in interspecies cooperation, living proof that the future could hold unity instead of conflict. "Whatever happens when they arrive," James said, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they faced, "we face it together." Through the laboratory windows, they could see the first hints of dawn painting the sky. Somewhere among those distant stars, Nora's people were traveling toward Earth, guided by the genetic beacons their hybrid children had become. The routine DNA test that had started everything was about to culminate in humanity's greatest adventure. And at the center of it, all 3 hearts beat in synchronization, united by a love that had literally reached across space and time to bring them together. The ships arrived 3 days later, not as the massive invasion fleets of science fiction, but as elegant crystalline vessels that seemed to bend light around themselves. They appeared simultaneously over 12 major cities around the world, each positioning itself near one of the hybrid children Nora had sensed. Emma stood with Nora and James on the roof of Genesis Medical Center, watching the graceful ship hover silently above their city. It was beautiful beyond description, its surface shifting between transparency and opalescence like a living gem. The sight filled Emma with wonder rather than fear, perhaps because of her connection to Nora, whose alien heritage resonated with joy at seeing her people's technology. "They're waiting," Nora said, her eyes reflecting the ship's ethereal light. "They won't make contact until all 12 hybrids are ready. We're the bridge between our species. The first meeting has to include us." Emma's tablet chimed with incoming video calls from around the world. One by one, the other hybrids appeared on screen. Like Nora, they had all experienced accelerated development in recent weeks, guided by loving human partners who had become part of their extended family network. "Dr. Rodriguez," said Dr. Maria Santos from Brazil, her arm around a woman with silver eyes whose skin held the same inner luminescence as Nora's. "Are you seeing what we're seeing?" "The same here in Tokyo," added Dr. Kenji Tanaka, his partner a man whose golden eyes held depths of ancient wisdom. "The ships are waiting for something." Emma realized that across the globe, the same pattern had emerged. Hybrids finding love with humans, whose genetic markers made them compatible, creating bonds that strengthened both species. It wasn't coincidence. It was design. "It's time," Nora announced, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to call to the sky. The crystalline ship above them began to descend, its landing gentle enough not to disturb so much as a leaf on the nearby trees. A section of the ship's hull shimmered and dissolved, revealing figures that were unmistakably Nora's people. They were tall and graceful, with skin that held the same inner light as their hybrid children. Their leader, a woman whose violet eyes matched Nora's exactly, stepped forward with tears streaming down her luminous face. "My daughter," she said in perfect English, her voice carrying the same musical quality as Nora's. "I have waited so long to hold you." The reunion was emotional beyond words. Nora ran to her biological mother's arms, while Emma and James watched, their hearts full of joy for her happiness, and some anxiety about what this meant for their relationship. But Nora's mother surprised them by turning to include Emma and James in her embrace. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you for loving our child, for helping her become who she was meant to be." Through their psychic connection, Emma felt the mother's gratitude and understanding. The alien woman could sense the depth of love between the three of them, and rather than seeing it as strange or wrong, she celebrated it as proof of successful integration between their species. "We are Veilani," the mother explained as more of her people emerged from the ship. "We have watched humanity for millennia, waiting for you to develop enough compassion and wisdom to accept us. Our children were sent not as spies or conquerors, but as ambassadors of hope." James, ever the scientist, couldn't contain his curiosity. "Your technology, your knowledge. What does this mean for human development?" "We will share what we can," replied another Veilani, this one bearing resemblance to the hybrid they'd seen from Tokyo. "But slowly, carefully. We've learned from other worlds that forced advancement leads to destruction. True progress must come from wisdom, not just technology." Over the following hours, similar scenes played out across the globe. The Veilani revealed themselves as refugees from a dying solar system, survivors who had spent generations searching for a species compatible enough to ensure their children's future. They had found that compatibility in humanity, not just genetically, but emotionally and spiritually, dot as the day progressed. Emma found her fears about losing Nora evaporating. The Veilani didn't want to take their hybrid children away from Earth. They wanted to build a new home alongside humanity. The love that had grown between Emma, James, and Nora wasn't threatened by first contact. It was the foundation upon which two species would build their shared future. "What happens now?" Emma asked as the three of them sat together, watching. Human and Veilani children played together in the medical center's garden. The sight of the two species interacting with such natural ease filled her with hope for the future. "Now we build something new," Nora replied, her hand intertwined with both of theirs. A world where love isn't limited by species, where understanding bridges any gap, and where the routine discovery of who we really are can change everything. Jane smiled, pulling both women closer. I can think of worse ways to spend the rest of our lives than being part of the greatest love story in human history. Above them, the crystalline ships continued their graceful dance in Earth's sky, symbols of a future where love had indeed proven stronger than fear, and where a routine DNA test had opened the door to infinite possibilities. The stars no longer seemed distant and cold. They had become part of home,